You're watching Gearz, brought to you by Ram Truck.
You know, one vehicle that's a huge part of American culture is the station wagon. Not quite a car, not quite a bus, not quite a van, but definitely a little bit of all three. And I bet that every one of you out there watching this show right now has spent more than a few hours riding in the back of one of these things, fighting with your siblings or your friends. But for everything that a wagon is, the one thing that people think that they are not is a custom car or a hot rod. And that's too bad, because a wagon can make a great street machine, as evidenced by the two we have here in the shop today. This one is a full-on show car built by an individual. This one was built by Holley, and they took more of a low-buck daily driver approach, so they can test products on it, take it to events, and just have a lot of fun with it. It's got a rebuilt suspension that's lowered 3 inches, a cool paint job, and a Chevy LS engine under the hood, so this thing will get down the road. But the only problem with putting a modern LS engine in a vintage car is that they're ugly. They don't look the part. Check it out. As you can see, the modern Chevy LS engine is pretty boring, with its ugly coil packs and a plastic intake and just an overall cluttered look. But fortunately, there are some things that you can do to help the looks and the performance of an LS engine. And that is exactly what we're going to do to the engine in this wagon. We're going to make it look like something that you'd see in a muscle car.
You know, wagons are just cool. You can throw your family in there, you can put your friends in there, all your gear, go to an event, they're a lot of fun.
Now, the first thing that you need to decide about an LS engine is what exactly do you want it to look like? Because Holley's got a lot of options here for you. For example, if you want to keep a fuel-injected look, or just make it look cooler, they've got what they call the mini ram here. As you can see, this is a multi-port fuel injection. Features an aluminum intake and an aluminum plenum, which makes it perfect for detailing and painting. And mounted on the engine, it looks like this. But let's say you want the look of 2 4-barrel carburetors, but don't want to lose your fuel injection. Well, you need to check out Holley's dual quad EFI. Now, this features a dual plane aluminum intake manifold. All the injectors and fuel rails are in place. You got twin throttle bodies sitting up on top. And when it's installed on the engine, you have the look of dual quads and the efficiency of fuel injection. But let's say you don't want to mess with that fuel injection junk. You want carburetors, and the more the better. Well, what you need is this dual plane intake manifold that fits 2 Holley 390 CFN carburetors end to end on an LS engine. This is a hot rod look. It's going to be perfect in the wagon. This is what we're going to do. The best part about doing an intake swap on an LS engine is it's super easy. There's no coolant that runs through the intake, no plug wires to mess with, basically 10 bolts and a few hookups and it's off of there. Then all you have to do is bolt on the new one. Now, you've got to admit, this is a cool looking setup. The problem is, it's still kind of ugly under here. It's because of those coil packs on the valve covers. Fortunately, you got some choices there too. Come on. These are the new aluminum valve covers from Holley for the LS engines, and as you can see, they're available fully polished or with a black crinkle finish. Now, these not only look a lot better than your stock valve covers, but as you can see, they relocate your coils at an angle and center them right over your mounting bolts to clean that up some. And then they get rid of this big ugly bracket to give you about the best looking valve cover you can have with exposed coils. Now, if you just hate that exposed coil look, want to cover them up, you got another option that's even cheaper than buying a new valve cover. This is called a coil cover, and as you can see, it's just a plastic cover that snaps right over the top of your stock coils and valve covers and hides them on the inside, but on the outside it has the look of a big block Chevy valve cover. Now, all you have to do is paint them and detail them however you want them, and you'll be surprised the difference these will make in the look and the feel of your engine. Yeah, that looks great. Now, I know some of you guys are thinking, carburetors? You took off fuel injection to put on 2 carburetors? That's gonna run like crap. It sounds like you're sacrificing drivability for a look, and that's crazy. And that would be crazy if it was true, but it's not. That unit there is far cheaper than an aftermarket fuel injection. It's gonna perform as good or better than a fuel injection. And when you're cruising around, you're gonna get good gas mileage because it's got progressive linkage and it's gonna keep you on a 2-barrel. Till, of course, you stomp on it.
Literally, you could buy a carburetor every year for 10 years before you'd have the money you would have in a fuel injection system. So there's still a fantastic option, particularly for the low buck guy, and they can perform well, particularly if you spend a little bit of time to learn how to get them tuned properly.
So, we have an early 70s Chevelle cruiser wagon with an LS engine in it and 2 4s on it. And some of you might be looking at this going, man, you have a brown station wagon. What kind of fun can you have in this? More than you can imagine. The power of the LS engine will allow you to do things that most people would never dream you could do with a station wagon.
In you go. Good boy. Good boy. Get him.
But of course, you can still do all the fun things that wagons are famous for.
Oh, Tommy.
Go ahead. Domino.
Go back, Tommy. Go back. Oh my gosh. Go back.
Come on.
Go back. Where are we going? Oh, thank you for giving me a mouthful of tape.
And when you really want to give somebody a ride, you can combine the two. Try doing that in an SUV. So, we've got an iconic American body style, modern performance, and a cheap price. Sounds like a hot rod to me.
And now, Paint Tech, brought to you by PPG Industries, bringing innovation to the surface.
You know, the biggest news to hit the painting world in a long time has been the introduction of water-based paints. Since they use water as a reducer as opposed to a solvent, well, obviously they're much better for your health and for the environment. But in spite of this, there's still a lot of questions that are swirling around about the pros and cons of using a water-based paint. Are they really a better system, and why? Well, we decided to take some of these questions right to the guys at PPG, see if we could get some answers for you. Starting with, how is the color quality compared to a solvent-based paint?
As far as ease of spraying, overall cleanliness of the color, a lot of these colors just are really drab in solvent. But when you do the same colors in water, man, they are just eye-popping colors. So that would be a good reason to switch from solvent to water.
But what if you're shooting metallics or pearls?
Associated with solvent, you know, the mottling or the fuzzy-looking, cloudy-looking metallic, you don't get that with water because water allows the metallics to lay down flat like they're supposed to.
Does it dry differently than a solvent-based paint?
It sprays very similar to solvent. There are some quirky things that are associated with spraying water. You got to have air movement. I kind of use the analogy of a lady painting her fingernails and just kind of doing this and letting the paint dry. It's the same way with water. It will dry on its own, But if you want it to dry faster, you just blow dry it, and it works out really good.
What about clear coats?
There's a training process to go along with that because, you know, if you've ever sprayed clear, solvent clear, and you try to spray it to wetness or spray it to gloss, you can't do that with water. You have to spray it because it's white. And you think, how in the world does this clear go from white to clear? But it's water. So you have to be patient with it.
Now, Quick Tip. Brought to you by E3 Spark Plugs. Born to burn.
You know, one issue that every gearhead has to face from time to time is drilling a hole in a painted panel. Now, this is different than drilling in bare steel because the drill bit can catch the paint and cause it to chip and crack on you. Now, a simple way to keep this from happening is to take some masking tape and lay it over the area where you're going to drill. Now, just drill away. The masking tape will hold the paint together so it doesn't chip and crack on you. Then, once you're done drilling, just pull off the tape and you have got a clean hole. But don't forget to take some touch-up paint and go around the inside of the hole to seal the edges of the paint so moisture doesn't get under the paint and cause you some problems there. If you'd like to learn some more tips to make your life easier in the shop, check out the tips page on the website. You know, one question that we get a lot from viewers is what kind of opportunities are out there in the automotive industry? And is it even possible to make a living in this world? Well, in spite of what you may think with the economy being sour over the last few years, there is a huge demand for people that can work with their hands, that have a skill, and have the guts to start their own business. But don't just take my word for it. Let me show you an example. Greg Price has always loved cars ever since he was a kid.
You know, I grew up as a kid with my dad raced, my brother raced, of course my uncle raced. You know, I grew up at the racetrack.
And because of that, it was a natural step for Greg to go to work at a body shop when he got older.
I like to restore cars, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's my cup of tea. I love to restore cars.
And soon he was fixing cars, straightening frames, and doing other collision repair work for one of the premier body shops in Texas.
You know, eventually your old knees or your body tells you that you need to go to do something else, and I chose to, you know, eventually get out of it. It's hard to make a career change, and you got a wife and 2 kids at home, and you're wanting to change, but change sometimes could be a smaller paycheck.
Now, at this point, you have the answer to the original question. Greg had been a body man for 13 years and was pulling down around 100 grand a year. That's good money. But he knew he couldn't be a body man forever, and he kind of wanted to be his own boss. So he decided to quit using tools for a living and start supplying them. Since Greg had been using Cornwell tools for years and knew their reputation and quality, they were the logical choice to start a business with.
So I had a dealer that was running this area previously, and at 70 years old, he decided to retire. And he told me about Greg and said that they had been friends for years, and he wanted me to talk to him about the tool business.
But that doesn't mean it was an easy road at first.
First day out, me and Larry is in DeSoto, Texas. Man, I'm gung-ho, let's go sell some tools. I haven't driven a truck much. We left Corsa County, Texas with a half a tank of fuel. First day out, by lunch, we're walking. We're out of fuel.
Realizing that the success of his new business hinged entirely on him and how much effort he was willing to put into it,
What's happening?
Greg began to put in the time building relationships and taking care of his customers.
I like it. I'll take it. You want one? All right. I'll get you one out there and ran you in the box. This is my demo. I'll bring you one in.
Okay, that'll work. I appreciate it.
The trust factor, I think, is one of the #1 priorities in this business. You gotta trust you that you're gonna be there. Let's say my stop's Thursday at 4:30 in the afternoon. Give or take 15 minutes, I'm gonna be at that Thursday at 4:30 in the afternoon.
But he not only takes care of his regular customers,
It's a car already? Away at it.
he's always on the lookout for a new shop or somebody that might need his tools, no matter what box or other sets they may have. Because guys are always looking for quality tools.
I'll come out, let's look around on the truck. All right? Our warranty and customer relations, and we blow them out of the water. I have so many people come in and say, hey, I got a broken socket. I hand them one back. There's sockets missing out of some of these racks because I'll take it. You got a broken socket, I'll give it to you right now if I have it on my truck. And I explain to the next guy when he gets on my truck, I just warranted out of this set, and do you mind me bringing you this socket next week? There comes a relationship that, hey, this guy is gonna take care of me the best he can when he shows up.
Pulling on his extensive knowledge of tools and all those years in the body shop, Greg is able to keep all the latest equipment flowing right into the hands of the guys that really need them and don't have the time to go look for them at a store.
There you go, Burns. Hey, man, I appreciate you, buddy.
And on any given day, his stops will include body shops, mechanic shops, specialty shops, race shops. There's even people that just walk in off the street and buy stuff because there's nothing that attracts a car guy like a big flamed tool truck. So, was it worth it? Well, in a little over a year's time, Greg has become one of the top Cornwell salesmen in the country.
You know, you can be a guy that says, you know what, I really don't want to get up and go in the morning, or you can be that guy that says, hey, I'm gonna beat the first guy at the stop.
What's it like being your own boss?
Man, it's great. Wouldn't change it a bit.
And now, Parts Bin.
You know, if you hold on to your vehicle long enough, eventually you're going to have to replace the engine. And the aftermarket is full of quality crate engines. But what if you just want a stock rebuilt engine? Well, for that, there's Groom's Engines. Groom's rebuilds over 9,000 engines a year. They do foreign, domestic, long block, short block, pretty much anything you can imagine, they probably have it. Now, since you're going to be reusing all your top-end components and accessories, these things are very affordable, and they come with the important stuff like a new oil pump and a complete gasket set to help you put it in. Now, if you're wondering about quality, Groom's is the only company that I know of that offers a lifetime warranty on their engines. If you're going to keep your truck or car for a while, Groom's has the engine to help you do that. If you have a Jeep and you drive it like you're supposed to, well, you know that keeping cold, clean air flowing into the engine can be a little bit of a problem, especially when you're running down a dusty trail. Well, Air Raid has got a solution to that problem with this new kit for the Jeep JK Wrangler. Now, of course, it includes their washable, reusable filter that gives you great airflow and filters out all the nasty stuff, and it fits down inside of this cold air box. Now, what this does is separate all that hot air from the engine compartment from the filter inside. Then the filter is fed with fresh air from this vent here that goes out to the edge of the hood. The filtered air then flows through the intake tube into the engine. If you wheel your Jeep hard, or if you just wheel it around, an Air Raid intake system can be one of the best things you put on it. It's no secret that part of the magic of having a hot rod is having it sound hot. But a custom muffler isn't just about sound, it's also about better airflow. And Heartthrob Exhaust says they've hit the best of both worlds with their HVS stainless steel mufflers. Now, these feature a unique winged baffle that helps evacuate the exhaust and increase flow. You've got fiberglass packing in the ends to knock down sound and smooth turbulence. And a double wrapped shell helps keep the sound deep and mellow. And of course, the stainless steel construction means it's going to look good and last for a long time. If you want a performance muffler, Heartthrob Exhaust is a place you better check out. In today's modern society, the iPhone and the iPad are a fact of life. Another fact is that they're expensive and that they're easy to bust all to pieces. Well, Ultimate Truck Gear has got a way to protect your equipment with these aluminum cases for the iPad and the iPhone. Check them out. The aluminum frame slides over the unit and provides protection on all the corners and the edges as well as across the back. The best part is the unit is fully functional in the case with easy access to plugs, volume, and power switches. So, if you like to play rough and you need an iPhone or an iPad to do the same thing, Ultimate Truck Gear has got the case that you need.
What are you working on? Brought to you by Dake. If you have the dream, we have the tools.
Today's What Are You Working On comes from Joe Bull from Buffalo Heart, Illinois, and his project started in 1974 when he was 26 years old. And then it stalled in 1979, and he didn't pick it up again till 30 years later in 2009. Now, as crazy as that sounds, it's not as crazy as his project, because he took a 1969 Mustang, cut 14 inches out of the body at the doors, check it out, and added that 14 inches in front of the firewall. Here it is on the trailer. Man, that is wild. But it still has a stock wheelbase. Check this out. He narrowed and shortened a 66 Ford Galaxy station wagon frame and channeled the body down over it. Then, of course, it had to have custom floors, so he made some floors for it. The engine is a 429 Super Cobra jet that's been set back 19.5 inches. I promise you, you're not gonna see another one of these at a show. Now, of course, the rest of the car had to be nice, so we did a wood grain interior and then put a nice paint job on it. And when all the smoke cleared, this is what he ended up with. That is the craziest Mustang I've ever seen. So Joe, great job. And for thinking outside the box, we hooked up with our buddies at Dake. We're gonna give you one of these arbor presses, because I'm sure you needed one with as much metal work as you did on that car. Also, we're gonna give you a year's subscription to Drag Illustrated to keep you up with the drag racing world. And we're gonna give you one of our own project build books so you can keep track of all the stuff you put on that Mustang. Now, the rest of you guys, if you wanna get your project featured on the show, you gotta send it in to What Are You Working On? We'll do our best to get it on the air. All right, we got work to do. We'll see you next week.